to talk... Oh, wait, what is it?
Zelf.
On the shelf.
Hey guys, today we're going to tell you 4 things that you need to know about Joseph Smith's polygamy.
Number 1, Joseph Smith's polygamy was intended to be sexual. Yeah. This is it's a really important distinction because some apologists try to argue that there were some types of plural marriages that Joseph entered into that weren't sexual. And that's absolutely crazy.
Only sealings?
Yeah, it's a term that they completely made up. It can't be found anywhere in the scriptures or in the teachings of Joseph Smith.
Even though Mormons like to pretend that we don't know why polygamy was instituted, we do know because God has laid out in the scriptures and in D&C and stuff why he was down for polygamy, and there is no scriptural justification for marriages that don't involve sex.
So in the Book of Mormon, if you go to Jacob 2, it talks about... it actually denounces polygamy, but then leaves one caveat that says, if the Lord will raise up seed unto himself, which of course means having children. And then in the Doctrine and Covenants, section 132, where he gives the revelation on polygamy, he says again, using Abraham, I believe, as an example of raising up seed to have a righteous posterity. Those are the only justifications given for polygamy is having kids, which means sex.
Yeah, so if you're a Mormon and you need to justify polygamy in your mind, you have to, number 1, be okay with the fact that yes, Joseph almost definitely did have sex with a 14-year-old girl and other prophets who married, I think, even younger than 14, right?
Jeez, you give away our punchline.
I'm sorry. And 2, that is the only justification for it, is raising up of children, even though that doesn't really make sense because, as we're going to talk about in a little bit, Joseph married other men's wives, so a bit unnecessary. Point number 2 is that 14 of Joseph's plural wives were already married to other men.
14 is kind of the magic number for Joseph Smith, isn't it?
It seems to be, and it is quite a kick to the crotch for that it's to raise up children theory, which is the only logical theory for polygamy.
Not to mention that in D&C 132, again, it talks about...
how you should only plural marry virgins.
Yeah, virgins.
And I'm guessing they weren't all virgins.
No, if they were already married to other people.
And in D&C 132, God commanded Joseph Smith to only marry other women with Emma's permission, which he definitely did not do because he had several wives before she even knew about it.
The whole revelation is really fucked up. It talks about, it's like, he's supposed to give Emma, teach her the principle, and then she's allowed to choose and give consent for him to take other wives.
It's kind of sexy.
But then it says, and if she chooses not to, she'll be destroyed.
It's your choice, Emma. Listen, we've all got free agency here.
And then says that he's allowed to like go behind her back if she chooses not to. So there really never was a choice for Emma Smith. But yeah, Joseph Smith broke his own rule, which was to take virgins. He married other men's wives. Some of them weren't even, the husbands of these wives weren't even members of the church. They were just...
They're probably just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
No wonder Joseph Smith got killed.
All right, point number 3. Joseph Smith, this is not a myth. Joseph Smith sent men on missions and then married their wives.
Okay, but Tanner, listen. It was only 2 of the 14, so that's not really a great point of why Joseph Smith was shady, okay? It was only 2.
That's literally Fair Mormon's argument. They're like, critics say that he sent men on missions and married their wives. That's not true. He only did that twice.
Come on, we've all messed up twice.
Yeah, so don't leave your wife unattended around the prophet.
4th and most upsetting point for me is that Joseph married girls as young as 14 years old.
Oh, so 3 of Joseph Smith's wives, let me check this. So Joseph Smith had nearly 40 wives. 3 were 17 years old, 1 was 16, and 2 were only 14 years old.
And don't listen to apologists telling you that it was normal back then, because it was absolutely not normal for girls as young as 14 to get married. Especially
not to like 35-year-old men.
Yeah, there was a tiny percentage of women that would get married at 14 to other 14-year-olds, or like people generally within their age range, like a 14-year-old girl in love with a 16-year-old boyfriend or something. Not to a 36-year-old man that already had a bunch more wives and was also their foster dad.
Yeah.
Or whatever was going on there.
In the case of Helen Mar Kimball, Fair Mormon says essentially like, well, it's not that big of a deal. It was her dad who asked Joseph Smith to do it. which, like, that just goes to show you where their morality is
Yeah.
at, because, like, that makes it so much worse.
Like, her dad gets to decide that she marries a 36-year-old man, and didn't her dad want to get in on the whole polygamy thing?
Oh, yeah.
Kimball, like, he took polygamous wives.
Definitely. So Heber C. Kimball is the one who said that he takes no more thought for taking a wife than he does for buying a cow. So a real charmer, that Heber C. Kimball. Now let's just talk about sexual grooming really quick, because this is a perfect example of what that's all about. You can Google sexual grooming, and any website you go to will have all this information on it. One of the primary tactics of sexual groomers is to befriend the family, and that it, like, shows to the child that they're a person who can be trusted and is respected by the family. Another thing is it's usually a person of prominence who has some sort of influence with the child, which, like, as prophet of the restoration, living in Nauvoo, mayor of the city, mayor of the Nauvoo Legion, of course, like, he's going to have so much influence, and it's going to be impossible to say no to him.
And it's really sad reading what Helen Mar Kimball said about the experience. Like, she did not want to do it, but she was basically so coerced into doing it. Like, she fasted for, I think, 7 days, and then, wasn't it? And then on the 7th day, it might have been 3 days, but she fasted for, like, a semi-significant period of time, and then at the end of it, reluctantly agreed to do it, which is so classic. Like, when you fast and you starve yourself for days, like, your defenses are worn down, like, you're probably way more prone to do crap like that. And she wrote like a poem about how miserable she was. And I hate how Mormon apologists will always be like, yeah, but she wasn't miserable because of anything relating to sex. She was just miserable because she didn't get to go out and go to parties. And it's like, how is that not? That's
true, too.
Still really traumatic. She was a 14-year-old girl. She shouldn't have been married to this man. Like, there's no justification for it. And I hate how they act like, oh, she just was sad that she was missing out on a normal, youthful life. And it's like, yeah, that's valid. And what was the quote by the woman that said, I don't know if it was Helen Mar Kimball, but it was one of his young wives that said, I never would have been sealed to him had I known it had been anything more than ceremony.
Yeah. I had this quote from Helen Mar Kimball that you were talking about, where she wasn't allowed to go to the dance, and she said, I thought a very unkind act in father to allow my brother to go and enjoy the dance unrestrained with others of my companions and fetter me down, for no girl loved dancing better than I did, and I really felt it was too much to bear. It made the dull school still more dull, and like a wild bird I longed for the freedom that was denied me, and thought myself a much abused child.
Does that sound like someone who entered into a marriage willingly to you?
And that it was pardonable if I did murder. Plus also...
pardonable if I did murder?
Murmur.
Oh, murmur.
She also said that she heard Joseph Smith teach and explain the principle of celestial marriage, after which he said to her, if you will take this step, it will ensure your eternal salvation and exaltation, and that of your father's household and of all your kindred.
Okay, that of your father's household, that's not a principle Mormons even believe. Like,
right.
That you can somehow save... God, I hate it all. It's just classic coercion. It's insane to me that anyone could justify that as anything but coercion. Like, she was miserable in it. She didn't want to do it before. She wasn't happy in it after. She ended
up becoming, like, an advocate for plural marriage.
Of course she did, because you have to, like, she'd been so miserable. It's like some cost fallacy. You have to, like, justify all this misery.
Especially if, like, after he was martyred, and then she can just sort of remember him as this grand heroic figure.
She had to believe that there was, like, some purpose to her suffering, which... all of us all want to do.
Yeah, so this is just, Fair Mormon's so crazy. I was reading this other thing of theirs. It's been so long since I've been on Fair Mormon, but I got on and I was just like, oh my god, this is crazy. Like, it made me really passionate again.
Yeah.
Because, when like, it's like, I don't care, and then I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy. Like, there was one where it's like, a woman claimed that Brigham Young locked her in a room for days, so that until she accepted Joseph Smith's proposal or something. But that's an exaggeration. He only locked her in there for 10 minutes. And then, like, it's like, you shouldn't be locking anybody up for any reason. And
I love
for
how
any
Fair Mormon, they don't seem to see a problem with how much stuff. They're like, no, it was slightly less bad, or like, that person was lying. Like, it's weird how there's so much stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
That concludes the 4 facts we're going to share with you today about Joseph Smith's polygamy. If you want us to talk more about polygamy, let us know in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up. If you want to support us on Patreon, where we do monthly Google Hangouts and we make exclusive behind the scenes content and stuff like that, it's a fun time, then I'll leave the link to that in our description box too. And thanks for joining us.